Hi there, my name is Alastair Mitchell. I'm CEO and co-founder of Huddle.net, and here are my 5 tips for raising money for startups. So I can go on about this for several hours. The art of raising money is definitely more of an art than a science, and definitely involves a lot more psychology than I think we ever thought. And actually numbers are far less important than you might think. So with that in mind, tip number 1 I think is be aggressive early on. The deals you do early on, even if it's not raising money, so for instance getting your product built if you are non-techie and doing a deal with a development partner, any deal that involves selling your product or getting someone interested in coming to work for you where you give them in the very early stages a little bit of your equity, any of those deals set valuations very early on. So the more aggressive you can be early on, the better in those deals, because you can then use them to build on later on. So let's say you do a very early deal to get a little bit of your product built by another company that values you at £1 million because they do £50,000 worth of work for 5% of the company. That has given you an early stage valuation, which you can then go to an investor and say, well look, we're already valued at £1 million. We haven't got any revenue, we haven't got any customers, but we're valued at £1 million, so come and invest on that basis. That's really important because early on, you've got nothing on which to hang your valuation of your company, nothing apart from you. And there are no numbers, there's no justification, the business plan means nothing. So really you just need some form of concrete evidence which someone can hang their valuation on. So tip number 1, be aggressive early on. Second tip, choose the right investors at the right time. Don't dive into bed with an institutional investor, and by this I mean a VC or even an angel who is a professional angel, who are like mini venture capitalists. Don't dive into bed with them unless you're absolutely sure that's the path you want to go down, because it is a journey in which you will, once you've started, you never can get out of. So choose the right investor at the right time, and early on that means friends and family and wealthy people who believe in your vision and can help mentor you and give you the support you need without wanting to take a huge chunk of your business. So choose those sort of people early on, because they are much more valuable to you, not just because they might take a little bit less of your company, they'll be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit less aggressive, but they'll be much more supportive. They will be with you as early stage entrepreneurs, helping you and being supporting and being mentors, making introductions, than another type of investor is, who is really about the aggressive financial growth of your business, which is not what you want early on. So choose the right investor at the right time, and be very, very careful before you jump into bed with an institutional investor. They're fantastic, but they are fantastic at the right time, and early on can be much more destructive than they are constructive. Third, that's tip number 2, so choose the right investor at the right time, and if in doubt, go for a rich person who has money early on. Tip number 3 is you have to kiss a lot of frogs and see a lot of people and ask very hard questions when talking to investors. What do I mean by kissing a lot of frogs? Well, you kiss a lot of frogs before one of them turns into a princess or a prince, depending on your point of view. So you have to meet a lot of people and talk to a lot of investors. It just takes an awful lot of time, and you have to be prepared to do that. And you have to be prepared that takes you out of the business for a long time. A lot of times, the reason people won't be investing in you will be nothing to do with you or your business. It'll actually be to do with them. And you can go an awful long way down a path with someone, giving them plans, and we've made this mistake several times, doing all the due diligence, going backwards and forwards on metrics, spending months dealing with them, actually for at the end of the day to get to the point where they can't invest in you. And you think it's because of something you've done or something's wrong with your business. It's actually nothing to do with that. There are lots of other factors that come into play that are purely internal to them, to the investor, that mean they might not be underinvested in you, and you have to understand those very early on, otherwise you're going to waste an awful lot of time. So ask hard questions, don't be afraid to turn the tables on them. So questions like, how much money have you actually got? How much through that fund have you invested? Or how much have you deployed? Because obviously companies allocate out amount of money. They might only invest $1 million, but they might have 5 million allocated to companies. And that means they have that much less they can actually invest in you. So ask how much money they've got, how much money, where they are in their fund, and how long that fund is active for, and what sort of returns they're expecting to make. If it looks like if you hear anything about they are near the end of that fund, or they're looking to raise another one, which is just around the corner, walk away. They will not have raised that money by the time you need it. So don't even bother with that particular investor. Also ask them questions about who makes the real decisions. Is it done by committee? Is there involvement from people in the US or in another country? Or is it the people you're sitting with who make those decisions? and what criteria they need to make them on. Get as much detail as you can on those, because otherwise you'll waste a lot of time. That's tip number 3. Tip number 4 is there are some rules of thumb that you should follow. A classic question when you're raising money very early on this is how much money should I raise, and what valuation? When I have no customers, I have no revenues to speak of, how much should I value your company? And why is it that companies that are seemingly at the same stage as my company can get 10 times the valuation that I am? Is it just because they've done it before, or because they seem to have some special secret sauce that I don't? Well, the reality is, when you're very early stage, there is no way you can justify any of the valuations that you're putting in your business, both from an investor side and from your point of view. But there are some rules of thumb. It really is based on you and the quality of what you are saying and your vision and the management team you have around you. Hence why later people who have built business before can often raise money at higher valuations and more of it more easily than people who have never started a business before themselves. So the general rule of thumb is that an investor will want about 30% of your business. An early stage investor, when they're coming in, will want about 30% of your business, come what may. And it almost doesn't matter how much money you're looking to raise. You could raise 3 million, you could raise 300,000, you could raise 30 million, and you'll still give away 30%. Now that seems completely cockeyed way of doing it, in that the higher the valuation of your company will be based on how much money you need. But that is in a way true, because you're building a big business, you're going to need more money, and it might be a bigger business in the future. So ask for a lot of money, as much money as you think you need. In fact, tip number 5, ask for double the money you think you need, and know that you'll give away about 30%, and that's what the valuation of your company will be. So it's as simple as that. How you justify that valuation? Well, how does anyone justify a valuation on a startup when it's not making any money? It all comes down to the size of the business, the size of the market, and you and your credibility as founders. And the investors will take a view on whether you, as a credible founder, can build a business that is going to be worth a lot of money in the future, that will justify that level of valuation. So ask for as much money you think you need, and accept you're going to give away 30% to an institutional type investor. And obviously that means raising as much money as you possibly can early on, once you've made that decision to go down the institutional investor. So that's tip number 4. Bear in mind the rules of thumb. And tip number 5, as I said, raise double the amount of money you think you'll need, because every forecast you ever do will be wrong. You will always half the amount of sales you make and double the amount of the cost you need that you think you need in your business. You're just always wrong, and we've been through it several times now, and every time we're getting better at it. We're closer and closer now to the forecast being correct, but they're always out. So raise much more money. The more money you raise early on, the more likely it is you'll be successful in the long term. Bearing in mind, you will obviously be giving away chunks of your business for that. So those are my 5 tips, and good luck, everyone.